welcome to all of you. I am incredibly excited about the program tonight, and I bet you are too. I'm Blythe Hamer. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Continuing Education. Tonight, I am honored to present Ang Lee, the Academy Award-winning film director of Brokeback Mountain, Life of Pi, and 11 other remarkable films. Ang is part of our Notable Neighbors series, a program designed to showcase the extraordinarily talented members of our community. The Center for Continuing Education is self-sustaining nonprofit, and your support tonight is very meaningful. We receive no grants and no funding from the school district. Your support, along with the support of our business partners, Ray Catine Alexis, Houlihan Lawrence, Julia B. Fee, and Wells Fargo, means that we can continue to offer enrichment programs that are of high quality for both adults and for teens. Our winter semester begins next week. Classes begin next week for our winter term, and they're available for you to look at on our website, and we also had some flyers out back. Of note, in particular, probably to those of you in the audience tonight, is our film series on the films of Ang Lee. It will be taught by Dr. Michael DeGennaro, who you'll meet in a few minutes. He's our film instructor. I do look forward to seeing many of you in our classrooms for both our evening and daytime classes in the weeks ahead. Ang Lee is a personal hero of mine. His films don't rely on happy endings or momentous events. They do dwell on the power of unspoken emotions, and they very often celebrate the beauty of the natural world. His ability to pinpoint the essence of a wide range of particular times and places is remarkable. The Connecticut suburbs in the 1970s in the ice storm, the British cultural society in Sense and Sensibility, and cultural Chinese identity in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. He was born in Taiwan in 1954 and came, and there he studied actually acting, which I thought was interesting, at the Taiwanese Cultural Academy. He moved to the United States in 1978, where he went to the University of Illinois and got a BFA in theater, followed soon thereafter by his attendance at NYU, where he got a master's in film production. He married Jane Lin. She's a microbiologist who supported the family while Ang continued to look for film projects, write scripts, and raise their two young sons. He got his break at age 36 when he received independent funding for his film Pushing Hands. It's a Mandarin language film that was shot entirely on the streets of New York City. The success of that film, along with two subsequent films also focusing on the East-West dialect, garnered him the attention of Hollywood producers. He was asked to direct Sense and Sensibility, and the success of that catapulted him from a so-called foreign language film director to the Hollywood big leagues. He and Jane spent many years here in Mamaroneck raising their two sons, Han and Mason, who actually graduated from Mamaroneck High School and were students of Dr. Mike DeGennaro. Mike taught film and English here for 34 years before he retired in 2008. For tonight's discussion, Mike put together a 15-minute film reel of clips from Ang's films. I want to warn you that on purpose, Mike did not indicate which movie the clips come from. So while I was watching it, I had some fun trying to remember which films the scenes came from. So on the filmography that we gave you tonight, you too could play that game if you'd like. The answers will actually be posted on our website at the end of the evening, so you can go home and check and see if your answers were right. So, at the end of the conversation between Aang and Mike, we'll go to the audience for questions. So, I want you to just be aware, when I actually watched this film reel, the scenes from it were so powerful that I was in tears by the end of it. So, I don't know if that'll happen to you. Craig?
God, I give myself to you. I am your vessel. Whatever comes, I want to know. Show me.
没人有这把钱。
哼，又来个教训人的，看见？
到此为止。
从今以后，认贱不认人。
当然，我赐礼物给你，是要见你的本性。
你们这些老江湖怎么见得到本心？
滚！
Scouting up toward the west. Make God's work at the boys. We'll wait for first fire. Head out. I want your boys to be setting up the post on Mount Oriad. Watch the road from Fort Leavenworth. Any dirt kicks up, I want word sent down straight away. Here's the death list. We should cross off every name.
President, I have some bad news, sir.
Let's have it, General.
I've briefed the President on Angry Man. I assume that's what this is about.
It is, ma'am. I'm requesting a National Command Authority override. Angry Man is unsecured. I need everything we have at my disposal in order to stop his movement.
You're expecting civilian casualties, General?
Not if I can help it, ma'am.
Consider it done. Keep us posted.
Contact Goodman Control. Patch data to the assets. Contact HQ. Have them initiate an immediate evacuation. The vicinity of grid coordinate 6-5.
You don't remember me, Ellie?
Do we know each other?
Bensonhurst, 73rd Street. I live down the street from you, man. We played stickball. I'm Michael Lang. You're Ellie Teichberg.
Yeah, I kind of remember. Yeah.
This is Teichberg. Hey, it's Michael from the neighborhood.
No, excuse me. You, cover your ports. We have company. In the barn. Get in the barn. All of you, in. Get inside.
Far out. Good pa.
他和你同岁，自从我爹病死，他就一肩扛起了这个家。他干活比谁都勤快，每年收成的时候，他总是忙完了自家还去帮忙人家。他也像你这样结实，我总是在他身边跟前跟后。他常说，诚实善良人，老天自会保佑。他是我们这个家唯一的希望。我向你磕头，为国家，为我死去的哥哥，为民族的万世万代，中国不能亡！
中国不能亡！中国不能亡！
我
was your big idea.
How long are they coming for?
Just a short visit. 2 weeks.
Ben. Ben.
I have spent the last week binging on Ang Lee films. And if you love movies the way I do, I highly recommend it. For one thing, you'll never be bored. Not for 1 second. From the clips you've seen, it's obvious that Lee never repeats himself. And that his range of direction covers all kinds of genres, different cultures, time periods, and 2 languages. You will, however, be deeply moved by quiet, almost silent moments, but you'll be dazzled by some of the most imaginative action sequences and astonished at the artful use of CGI special effects. Will you get to laugh? Of course. Cry? Well, I did, which is not something I do easily. What you won't have to endure are forced, feel-good endings. Rather, you will be left thinking, wanting to talk about the film with someone, eager to see it again. And best of all, his films are like mirrors that bring you into a deeper contemplation of yourself. So I thank you, Ang, for making this night possible. We had met before, once when I introduced you as the keynote speaker to a senior assembly's ceremony, and when you spoke at my art of film class. At that time, Crouching Tiger was breaking all kinds of box office records, and you had become a culture hero to a bunch of 17 and 18-year-old film students. I'm sure your words that day inspired many of them to pursue careers in film, probably to their mothers' and fathers' dismay. But even more than that, those words deepened their appreciation for film as an art. I remember how you told them about your growing up in Taiwan and the eventual journey to America, where you began your remarkable career as a filmmaker. So I think that's a good place to start this evening. Share with us some of that story that you had done before.
Well, it's a long story. I don't really know how to start it. By the way, my father was my high school principal. I don't know if that's how it gets started.
Well, it is a good start.
The silent moment you mentioned has a lot of repression in it. I wish I had a high school like this, but it was not. I was very repressed. I was supposed to study and someday become a useful man. And I just couldn't focus on the book. The book I was supposed to read. But I was a very docile child. Very much like all the leading men you see, except they're the better looking version. They're shy, they don't get the girls, they're repressed, they have identity problems, and they have authority over them, and they want it to cry, or bulk out, or whatever. They have lots of curiosity to the world, to themselves, but they're curious and confused. That's how I was when I was in high school. I was very shy. My father was not as nice as the principal here, I suppose. Very rightful, very stately man. I remember when I did Sense and Sensibility, I was not nominated. He said, at this rate, maybe at your 50, you might get an Oscar. Then you can think about doing something for real. That kind of not he doesn't like movie or not appreciate art, but it's not a good career. Film people, independent people in my old society would regard as people who don't behave very well. I think finally he accepted me being a filmmaker, not because I achieved those movies that he appreciated. That was successful, but I didn't do bad behavior. I raised my kids here like a normal man. And I cannot tell you how many young Asian kids came to me and thanked me for, with me, they're allowed to go to film school. So that's a society I grew up. And because I felt I wasn't a good student academically, not that I was dumb or anything, I was just like so confused. I got into the Academy of Art as result of failing in the college examination, but I was preparing for the next year's entrance examination. And I got to be on stage. I'm glad you chose one stage scene.
Yeah,
that's how it happened.
plus, yeah.
First I stood on stage very much like this, but the audience was darker. Spotlight hit my life, my eyes, I couldn't see out there, it was dark. I was electrified. I was enlightened. Somehow I felt I belonged to the world there, not here. I just wanted to be an actor, something theatrical. Because I felt like many of my movies, such as Wedding Banquet or the movie I'm doing now, well, most of my movies, there's a scenario where the real world kind of fake, and the imaginary world somehow is more truthful. And I felt only through pretending that we can touch the truth. Somehow we, as a group, hide in the dark, whether it's a stage theater or movie screen, that we're not dealing with reality, that we touch the truth and touch each other in a deeper level. And I was very curious about that. That existence, so to speak. It's kind of existential. And I was very attracted to movies and stage. Back then, in Taiwan, it's very hard to touch movies. So I was doing mostly stage work. And because my first inspiration was an actor, so I wanted to be an actor. I think a lot of people in the business actor want to be. We all start wanting to be actor. Yeah. Like all dancers start with ballet or something like that. And after military service, I get my first bite of performing art experiments in Taiwan, on stage mostly. And then after military service, I went to as introduced Illinois. And it's funny how it's very interesting how you chose a silent moment or more visual moments as the presentation, which is very different than most of the clips people put together in my career. Because I consider myself a dramatic person, dramatically trained. So I like dramatic, compact situation, conflict, all the drama stuff, a lot of talking head. Only in betweens I do things like that. But they turn out to be the visualized silent moments somehow say more than the language. And I went through that transition myself, both in my film career. My earlier film talked a lot more. And then it was quieter and quieter.
Yeah.
And I started out stage training for 5 years, 3 in Taiwan, 2 in Illinois. What happened is that I couldn't be an actor, I didn't speak English. To be honest, when I directed Sensibly, I spoke pidgin English. It was like words, I couldn't speak fluent once complete sentences. And that was so encouraging to me. If somebody like that could direct that movie, I can do anything. I'll do anything. That was very encouraging, by the way. And because of that, I couldn't act in English, and I had to direct. And I was very unhappy because nobody cared about stage directors. That's how young I were. I have been here. And I decided if I wanted to direct, I wanted to be a movie director. Then I went to got into NYU film school.
What I wondered, on that point, how did you get into NYU without any film experience?
Well, I did Super 8. Back then we have Super 8.
Oh, so
So I flew that in. They thought I was shooting like that. The first time I remember through the viewfinder, I think that world makes more sense than the world experience. And I knew I was talented. And I didn't have an editing machine. I just looked at the film, and cut the scissors and take them together. And I sent that movie to NYU to apply in film school. They thought I was some kind of a genius or something. I got in. I got to NYU. I think I'm a natural dramatist. I think I can be a good actor, but I never get to prove it professionally. And I'm very happy to do my performance through camera and tell people what to do. Maybe that's what I do better, just tell people what to do instead of do it myself.
Go back to the beginning. Jake Gyllenhaal had said that when he turned to Ang Lee for direction, he found it that Ang would grimace and actually act out with his facial gestures what he wanted to communicate. I don't know, is that an apocryphal story or is it true?
I do anything to get actors to do. I can give you some more rude, whatever the words, as long as they do things I like to see, and I go with any method. I was a lot quieter. My English wasn't, my vocabulary is just not big enough, especially actors, they're very verbalized person. I'm not really, especially in English. And they need a lot of praises and attentions. So if that's good, then what do I say when you're really good? What do I say? So I'm like, and I think the less you tell actors, sometimes better. Because when they verbalize it, they don't have to really do it. They rationalize it. I think a good art exists in the mystery, whether it's filmmaking or acting. It's really in the action, not so much up here. But I will tell them enough so they understand what I'm going after, and the rest is doing. And I think part of my talent, not major part of talents, I can see good from bad. I think a lot of people don't. They just keep trying and just try to insist on their ideas. But I think I'm good at getting them one way or another. Even back then when I did Sensibility, I hardly talk at all. And I have somebody talking who's very good, my producer, tell them I'm like a Zen master. I'm not saying anything, but I'm everywhere. And just keep talking to them. I really avoid talking to them. I don't know how to talk to them. But somehow people like the footage. They turn out to be really good. So it's like a Zen sort of, somehow you get him to do it. I think he did something deserving to do that grimace and something, and the result turns out to be good, I guess. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I think because the acting experience or my acting talent, actually I sync with their feelings. If they had a tight throat, if they're nervous here, if that's something blocked there, I could feel it. I think that's my main talent. First with my eyes to see them, the other I sync with their feelings. I can feel their vibe. I don't know how to describe that. Sometimes after a take, I go to an actor and tell them what's wrong with them, how they should do it, and that's exactly how they experience. Many actors told me that. I just know how they feel. I think you have to be part of the happening. And they say the acting is to react. I think that's the same thing with directing. You have to react to what they do instead of you tell them with great expectation or great ideas or great vocabulary to describe it, because all of that is either rationalize it, which is not what art is about, or you're making it abstract for them, making it more difficult for them. So I don't mind being clumsy and laugh at me or whatever they do. They used to crack jokes about me, or the direction I gave them. But as long as the result is good, that's what counts. And also, if they're Chinese or they're young actors here, I will tell them directly, you're not important. You can never act as well as how people imagine, the audience imagine in their head. So we're just, like the boy said, I'm your vessel. You have to see yourself as a vessel. And there's some kind of art wants to reach out there, and that go through the artist. And we're guinea pigs. We're just experiment this, experiment that. And somehow the actors being seen, or whatever they're seeing, being seen by the audience, they play the movie in their head. That's when things happen. It's not about you come to us and admire us what we do. See, I can do this. See, I can act that way. It's really being experiencing what the idea is, and somehow I get to tell actors what works or not. I'm just guessing, but my guess is better than most people's guess. But that's just a guess. But eventually, people out there, they're playing the movie in their head. That's how things happen. Not what we do, but what's in people's head. For experienced, known actor, the big egos, I won't tell them that. I find better ways to tell them that. But I think that's honest to God truth. I don't think much of myself. Your praise to my movie, that's very flattering, but that's not what I'm experiencing or what I'm thinking when I make movies. I have a lot of curiosities with the world, with myself, with my actors, or whoever in my hands, or the cinematographer, or sceneries. I want to put them together in this way or that way. And when I see people react to it, that's the most marvelous thing. I don't feel lonely. I don't feel that lonely, shy child when I was in high school. I feel like we're together, we're touching each other in a different level. I think that's something I cannot really describe or verbalize or rationalize. I think that's what movies about.
Well, one of the things that's, as you're saying this, that's so fascinating to me is that the kind of anxiety and that you go through in creating a film that's the kind of anxiety usually a novelist or a painter might be dealing with. But you're dealing with a film where you have hundreds of people that you have to, inspire and bring into your vision. And that's what I find, that you can do that and still be so cerebral about it, as opposed to just being,
It's like faith.
Yeah.
We all feel that post-production blue. I see crews cry, no matter how much I torture them. Actors, I humiliate them, or they think they're being misunderstood, whatever. I see them cry, like when they think about, in 4 weeks it's gonna come to a closure. It's like they have to face life again or something. And I feel responsible when I initiate some thoughts, an idea, and I start to pitch to people from studio then to all my crews. And that changed their lives. At least if I spend a year, that's a year of their lives. That's what they hang on to. Life has a purpose. Every day they wake up, there's a purpose. When hundreds of people look at me that way, like what today's about, what is my life, I gotta tell them. And that gave me a lot of strength. I feel like a priest or something, high priest or something. So it's interaction. I cannot be a good writer. No, when I was young, nobody gave me a script. I had to write when I faced a blank piece of paper. But at that time, there's no computer. I just blank. I had to feel every word. It's very painful. A movie, you're just into this whole group of people. But of course, I initiate the thought. They try to do what I want to do, and pretty soon that story is like Pi's story, is what we hang on to. When that story is about to end, everybody is sort of getting lost, and they have to find the next story, and after one story, I have to find the next story. It's kind of ironical, but people ask me when I take vacation in between movies, do I take vacation, where do I go? And I thought to myself that when I make a movie, that's vacation. It's in between that I'm working, actually.
One of the things that...
by the way, it's a lot of hard work, a lot of conflict, but in some way, it's not that horrible. It's actually happiness a lot of the time. Sometimes I just hate to deal with people. Why can I just, things happen that way? I have to go through so many difficulties, go through everybody. Like every actor is like a mountain I have to climb through. It's an individual case. Then you have to put them together in one movie and cruise and just go on and on and on. But somehow when that is over, it's like when Pi reached the shore, and the studio was so frustrated when I showed the movie. He said, "Why there's no shoreline shots? And why does he keep crying? Why is it so depressing?" He made it. to me, when he reached the shore, it's over. God left to him. The tiger left to him. Well, that's my story.
Okay, one of the things that, well, related more, perhaps is more psychological, is that it seems like there, throughout many of your films, despite their diversity in content, there is this underlying thing about an outsider, somebody who is not in the mainstream, but who's looking at it, or at least, you know, been rejected from it. And then along with that, you mentioned about your father, and so many of your films deal with the relationship between a father and a son. And I think anybody in the audience here, anybody who's a father, who's a son, can really connect to that. That's, you know, a very dramatic and very poignant human situation. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I love my mother, but we have no conflict, so there's no drama to put on the screen. Well, my father with my mother, they both escaped to Taiwan from the Chinese Civil War. When we arrived in Taiwan, we're outsiders. And we came to Taiwan because we were on the losing side. Not only outsider, my movies really, all of them identify with the losing side. I felt all my life, I never really, put aside the Academy Award, and I never really feel like winning anything. It's very easy for me to identify with the losing side or the smaller part, like the South in the Civil War, for example. We're outsiders in Taiwan, we're the minority, but the regime runs the country. So it's kind of an awkward situation. And then I came here, of course, an outsider. When I finally went back to China, to visit China as the place which is my homeland, where my cultural root is, where the school system, education system, and my parents, the beautiful China, the old China they described to me, which is really my cultural root. When I visit there, I'm, again, an outsider. So all my life I feel like outsider, and I start to feel home about being an outsider. In some ways, I guess I create the movie world. That's kind of my nation. That's something I really can trust, and I can live in, and feel have a good sense of belonging. I think in an imaginary world, I suppose.
Well, I would think that now that, you know, you're a renowned director throughout the world, that you can't possibly feel like an outsider anymore, unless that's so buried in your sensibility and that it comes out in your art. I would assume.
I have a lot of hearts for the outsider, so to speak. I think Yan Mattel, the writer, the author of Life of Pi, has the identity issue himself. So he has a lot of combination of cultures and adrift. Yeah, I can still feel adrift. I call New York home now. When I go back to Taiwan, I'm both visiting and homecoming. But when I come here, I feel like I'm coming home, maybe because kids is here and my home, you know, Jen, my wife, is here. And when I walk on the street of New York, and I feel, okay, I'm settling back. So New York is really home. But New York is really like a United Nation. Yeah. I think that dream, historical China, is still my culturally still my root, but that's kind of whimsical. It's more like an idea than actual reality. I don't think it actually exists now. Things go through so many changes historically, and I don't know which ones to trust more. I know when I go back to China and make a movie, I insist on the China I was imagining, I was taught. So which one is more real? It's very hard to say. I know which one is more real to me.
One of the things that, you know, you talk about the China in your mind, and then there's something else that's kind of interesting, and as an American, you've almost kind of taken that idea to the American West. You've made, I think, 3 or 4 films set in the West, and yet it's not the West that we see in, the usual kind of Western film, the cowboy movies. That you've taken a different view of the West, and maybe as an Eastern.
Kind of a real West.
Yeah.
The Western is a invented genre by some Irish guy. See, nobody stand in the middle of the street and duel, like nobody do that. You want to kill someone, you just sneak behind and hit him in the head. That's the. So what I did in the West is realistic Western, not really the Western movie per se. But I found this, both China and here, there's a tendency when people don't know what to do, they go west. It's like where the desert is, where the truth hides or something. We tend to romanticize the unknown in the West. I think, I had that in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I have a desert sequence. I found that very similar to the American, how our ideas about the West.
Yeah, so you're far different from, say, Quentin Tarantino's view of the West, which is based on Western movies. I mean, that's the only.
Yeah, he makes movies about movies.
Yeah, he makes movies. Yeah.
Which is a big, actually. I'm sorry, to deviate the topic a little bit. As an outsider, that's constantly my problem. I struggle with the cultural reality and the real reality. Because an outsider, I'm always scared that I'm not accurate enough. I do more research than any probably American filmmakers. And then so very often I could do the wrong thing by doing the right thing. Because when people watch a movie, there's a lot of false information built into the culture that becomes the movie reality. And I run into the trouble doing that to make it too real. By doing that, I didn't respect the culture reality. So I always struggle with that. When I train here, make movie here and go back to China or Taiwan, make movie, I face the same problem. Because I bring the outsider's eyes to it, to look at my own culture. So I always have that trouble. But I begin to get comfortable in that troublesome zone. That's kind of where I exist.
On this topic of the West, I have a couple of questions about Brokeback Mountain. Now, it's already 10 years old, and that's hard to believe because it just seemed like it came out. And in 2005 or 2004, when you were filming it, America was somewhat different. I mean, there was still Don't Ask, Don't Tell, DOMA, only Massachusetts had legal gay marriage. It seemed like it was a very different country, even though it was only 10 years ago. Anyway, Frank Rich, in a column in the Times, said that the climate in America, the political climate in America, was just right, just ready for your film. Now, I kind of feel that it's a little bit the other way around, that your film kind of educated America because it became so popular. In fact, I remember here in the school, kids, in my class had no trouble talking about Brokeback Mountain and all of the issues that it raised. I mean, they were very open and frank about it. We even had a favorable review in the Globe, and that was kind of like revolutionary, that people were talking about a gay situation, a gay love story. It wasn't about a disease, it wasn't about rights, it was simply about two people in love. And I thought that was really quite remarkable, and I think that's how America started to change. I don't know, do you have any comments about that?
As I said to you, the artists sometimes are really guinea pigs. I didn't know. I did that movie because the short story really moved me. After Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I was approached with that short story, and I cried toward the end. I said, what does Wyoming gay cowboy has anything to do with me? Why was I crying? So it's just, the short stories haunt me. But at that time, I was into the pulpy, big production mood. So I went ahead to do the Hulk. After the Hulk, I was really racked. And that's a movie about anger, and my father just passed away. I didn't want to end my career on the notion of Hulk. I was really thinking about retiring. I thought I had enough. I felt really spent. But I want to do a smaller movie that nobody will see. At that time, when I do something to that size, that was really easy. I do whatever I want. And the producer, I tell them, the studio, I say, if you want me to do this, it's probably one thing, just don't make me angry. I just want to do a loving movie. Just anybody annoys me, just deal with them, keep them away from me. That's just how I want to make the movie. I make the days. So I was in a very relaxed, very tired mentality when I made the movie. I think in a way that movie nurtured me back to loving filmmaking again. Actually nurtured me back to life, because even though the movie is tragic, but it's about love. It's pure love. So I experienced a lot of love. I nurtured myself physically and mentally, back to love to filmmaking and the world again. And when the movie hits the shopping mall, I started to get nervous. It's like a cowboy movie. They're gonna lynch me. I'm gonna do it. So I didn't know that much, actually. In my career, actually, I did three gay movies. Started with The Wedding Banquet, which I knew was going to be a shock to the Taiwanese society. And I did feel the movie opened up the Taiwanese. Because Taiwan, when they changed a lot faster than here. When I made that movie, America is about a land of freedom, and Taiwan was the conservative side. And in 10 years, and Brokeback Mountain was already here. It was PG in Taiwan. So it's a lot more open than American now. I felt that movie did have that impact. Here, I wasn't thinking that movie as a gay movie, because gay cinema has its own specific tone to it. It has to be different, but I'm so like everybody else, so common, so matter-of-factly. So I don't know if that's gay cinema, but it's a love story that's involved two male cowboys. Actually, they're sheep herders. Cowboys don't admit that. I think it's very pure love that gets to people, and then somehow that works. And I think you're right. The timing was very right, but that's by chance, not that through, because I have a purpose behind it. I just want to tell a poignant love story, because it really moved me. Sometimes that's the best thing. You cannot really plan those things.
Was there any pushback from the conservative right when it was released?
Well, the conservative side back then learned very well. The more they pushed, the better box office shows. So they chose to be really quiet. I got a few hits here and there, but not really. They choose to be not really dealing with it. And the movie just take off on its own. First at our house, and it's the shopping mall. And women pick up, and then everybody started seeing it. But it's a strange thing. I don't know how to analyze it. It keeps shooting towards the Academy Award. We start winning everything until the Academy Award, and it stopped. And the box office get to 80 million, and at that rate, a week it's gonna go 100, and we're preparing for that, and then it stopped there. Like everybody who could possibly see that movie, see it at least once or twice, and it just stopped there. There are people who won't see that movie or won't vote to that movie. It's just like, it stopped there.
Is that why you won the Best Director, but the film didn't win for Best Picture? Do you think it had something to do with that?
That's kind of obvious, but I was very surprised. But I think the other movie make a very good campaign that has something to do with that too. I don't really know.
Yeah.
It's pretty apparent that's the reason, but I cannot really say that. I think academies, yeah, it's a very competition.
Political.
I remember I just got that award. I was very happy and all. Then I walked to the backstage and told me, "Don't go back to the press screening. Stay there. There's a mark." So I was standing right behind the curtain, right there. They said, "The next one, you gotta go up, go up to." So I stood there, and Jack Nicholson went up, he opened the envelope, and he go, "Oh." They said, "Crash." I feel like I want to throw a guy back. But then I was very happy for the winners. I could see them like in a group. They jump up and down as a group. They're very happy.
You were talking about love. When people mention Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, the first thing that comes to mind, of course, is the martial arts, the sword play, the spectacle of it. But as I watched it again a couple of times in the past week, what I was taken by was really the two love stories. The one, the young lovers, Jen and Bo, and then the older couple and their unrequited love. And one was very passionate, very kinetic, and the other one, mature. And I just never. It never dawned on me what a profoundly beautiful love story that film is, and how was that received in China? I know it was so popular in the East.
I think it's. I think looking back, people in China looking back, they appreciate the movie a lot more nowadays than back then. Because I did something I didn't realize until I was doing it. I was A-grading a B movie genre. I was messed with the genre. So when people saw that movie when it came out, China, Hong Kong, and I think it did very well in Taiwan, but it has a somewhat mixed feeling. It was still successful, but people feel the movie strange. It's not your typical trashy martial art, chop kind of movie. The first fight didn't happen until 15 movie into it, and after the last fight, which culminated in a bamboo forest, which is like a sassy, sexy display, but there's no fighting. And then still 15 minutes to go. The climax come after the fight, and people used to be very wild, like pretty much like Quentin Tarantino's movie. But those people behave more serious than your dramatic movies. And I was very into the art direction and just make things accurate. The same problem as I said to you before. When I go from east to west, when I go west to east, I get too accurate, too refined in that B-movie genre, which is supposed to be trashy. I think when I did that movie, I had my childhood dream of doing a fantasy martial art film, but I also grown up with the operatic movies, which is a very feminine love story. It's like musical here. So I'm very much affected by that, the repressed love and singing, dancing. So I sort of put both the martial art fantasy and the melodramatic love story, heightened love story into the same movie. And as a beginning to be refined director, and I go with aesthetic and everything. So everything throw into the pots, and I didn't know what's going to happen. I'm glad I was a hit, but back then in the Chinese language territory, it was kind of a strange mix. But I think over time people appreciate a lot more than when it first came out.
Yeah, especially the way by the end of the film, the two love stories kind of come together and they kind of reflect each other in some way. And,
That's a hidden dragon. That girl is a hidden dragon.
And that was, quite stunning, I think. I mean, that's a film that looking back on it now, it's like a film I would have loved to have taught, but that brings up this other issue. Can films be taught? I mean, you went to film school, but you went to learn how to make a film. But can you learn how to appreciate a film?
I think so. But I think everybody has the same saying than just being taught. I think knowledge can be taught, but the taste cannot be taught. Feeling cannot be taught. I think it can be shared. I think teaching is really about open up the possibilities, fulfill students' curiosity. I think that would be a good thing. If teaching is like my middle school, high school way of teaching is about filling the blanks, I don't think that's good for, at least for art. Maybe history lessons, geography, I don't know, but certainly not art. But I've never met, including myself, filmmaker or writers admit that they've been taught something they learned from classrooms, and they apply that to their actual doing. I never met a few lessons, maybe here and there. It's really about discover yourself. It's about experiment. I think filmmaking classes is good in terms of you can, before you hit the real professional world, you get to learn how to touch with your creative self, how you express it, and then you see your classmates, teachers, how they respond to it. That's a good exercise. I think that's the beginning of creativity. I think creativity is really about try to expose yourself, see if you're there, see how to, see where that fits, how people respond to it, how you communicate that deeper self with other people. I think that's an exercise. I don't think that's teaching, or teaching should be about provide that a chance, give good guidance. I think that should be teaching about filmmaking. I think it's very different from film appreciation. Film appreciation has a lot to do with theories and reviews, comment. It's about rationalize something that's mysterious. It's about rationalize, verbalize particularly. It's really about words, language. And I think filmmaking is really about visual, sight and sound. It's really more direct, I think. I'd rather not knowing that much. At some point, I was very curious about the knowledge of film. At some point, I know that probably will hurt my creativity. It's not like I want myself to be down. I think certain knowledge is good, certain polish is good, but not to kill the instinct, not to kill that childishness. I think the naivety and daringness and boldness is very important. Once you get it out in your polish, you see where it fits in or not. Some people choose not to. But it's really a mystery. It's like faith, you have to respect.
There's an anecdote I want to share with you. Maybe you remember part of it, I don't know. But if I didn't say it tonight, I think I would just not live with myself. So I have to say this. Anyway, many years ago, I used a scene from Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, actually part of the extended version of the scene that you saw, the chef, cooking, as part of an exercise for my AP class. And they had to take two scenes, both of them have to do with food, and they had to do an analysis of it. Anyway, many of them chose your scene, okay? That scene they loved. And one of the things that came up during discussions, they came up with all kinds of theories, anthropological, psychological. I mean, they were going all over the place with it. And then your son was sitting in the class, and he raised his hand, with that mischievous glint in his eye, and he said, "Dr. DeGennaro, I asked my father what that scene meant, and he said all he wanted to do was to get the audience hungry for Chinese food." So I always like to refer to that as my Marshall McLuhan moment from Annie Hall, you know, that I was going all, you know, with all of these theories, and there it was. But so I guess the question I want to ask you is,
well, there's deeper meaning. He was too young to be heard. I remember to tell him now the truth. He's growing up now.
But he was told not to ask you, because the idea was, well, what is the director's intent? I guess the lesson I have to learn is never, ever teach the work of a living artist whose kids are in your class.
I was thinking a lot about the ritual and the sin. Yeah. I don't know how old he was. It might be on the younger side to tell him. So that's why the first is the killing.
You guys have my microphone, so that's fine. But thank you so much.
So you would like to open it up for
both
questions?
of you, yeah, and questions. We don't have mics that we can pass out to you, so please stand up and state your question as loudly as you can, if you would. Is that Simon? Yes.
Have a new movie coming out later this year. From my perspective, it's a major departure in that it features Vin Diesel, who's a masculine icon, the Dallas Cowboys, who is America's team, boyhood fantasies of hanging out with cheerleaders, and so on and so forth. I wondered if you could just reflect on what you're trying to accomplish with this particular movie.
The Life of Pi was my first experience with digital cinema, and because I want to do a dimensionalized movie, I want to explore that, a different dimension. Then I found many questions. I'm a curious person. So the next movie I want to do a dimensional drama, with a 3D drama. I think people got the 3D thing wrong. We haven't even started yet. The language of 3D movie and digital cinema hasn't really been realized yet. And because of Pi, I get a taste of that. I did Pi very conservatively, very little. Now I want to really explore it. I like that because that's 1 day's in a young soldier's mind. So, but because of 3D, I could do the subjective way of looking at a film, really point of view. You see, when you watch 2D movies, you see a picture of a person, but 3D with both eyes. I'm talking not post doing it, but with actually two cameras looking at it, mimicking our eyes. You actually see a person. You pick up so much nuances. And I gotta do a story of a young soldier's mind, where his normal sensation is in the battlefield, and you put him in the Dallas Cowboy halftime show. That's horrific. And the cheerleaders. So I just want to experience that sensation. I grew up not in the other side of the spectrum of what you're talking about, football, cowboy, cheerleaders. And, but I found that world, if I can reside in that world and look back at the truth. The soldiers, they keep wanting to go back. That's a mystery to me. That's like Pi missing the days that he drifted across the Pacific with the tiger. Those young soldiers, they're like teenagers. They had the first taste of led by Vin Diesel, where he died in that combat, and they were the heroes. They've been celebrated, been serenaded by Destiny's Child, and inevitably they all want to go back to that bad land. And why is that? That's a very poignant, very reflective material for me. Of course, I'm not a boy, and each movie I chose the same age boys, so I never get to get old. But politically and everything, I get more sophisticated at my things to say. But the most attractive elements in the book is look at that world with a satirical point of view and shocking point of view, because the soldier, their adrenaline, everything, their sensations up here. And they cannot be understood except they understand each other. The whole world don't understand them, but they rather go back to a place they be shot at and not understand either. I think that's a great movie and great dramatic material. I got attracted to do it. I'm still trying to figure it out. It's a very strange movie. Both in technology and dramatic elements.
Yes, right here in front.
Please describe the process of how you select screenplays to direct. And with the screenwriter's vision for the film differs from your own, how do you resolve that conflict?
Could everyone hear that?
Yeah.
No.
Is there a question?
The question is,
Microphone.
when you read a screenplay, and then you have your own vision of what the film should be, how do you reconcile the differences between the way you want to see it and the way the screenwriter wants to see it?
That was the second question. And the first question was, how do you select a screenplay to direct?
Sometimes I feel it selects me. I feel I'm kind of like a slave to it instead of master of the material. It will happen. Unlike most of the filmmakers, they develop different projects. Sometimes they produce, they choose what is right to do. To me, I live on that film. So like, I was into how a man's relationship with God, then Pi shows up, it speaks to me. So it will show up. I never really planned. People pitch me a lot of things. After the first couple of them, I don't really have to think about it. It's just kind of what hits me. How I select, if it's getting harder and harder because I'm looking for things I don't know what to do, that I'm curious about. I would have people pay me to find that out. So if something I feel like either I've done it before, I've seen that before, if a combination of elements like gay, cowboy, that's interesting. It's really not about character or story that speaks to me, but the elements that put together that has some strangeness to it, but it's very common, it's universal, and that will start to work on me. And I don't particularly think hard if it, like Brokeback Mountain, it haunted me for 3 years. I read it 3 years later and it still hasn't left me. And then I know that's time ripe to do it. I think the screenplay is unlike a stage play, which is a literature. It has a value of its own. From my point of view, a screenplay doesn't have value until it's done. So it's like really a step towards filmmaking. So once you like something, whether I get to involve in writing or rewrite or whatever, to things I think that's how it should be done. But once you see the person you cast, you see the scenery, it has a chemistry of its own. It will happen on its own. Then I'll rewrite accordingly. So it's a happening, it's a long process of happening, and the screenplay is just a blueprint. I take them seriously, but it's not like I want to translate words into images, not like that at all. It's just something you put it down so people has agreement on that's our goal. How you reach there, it happens so many ways. And you have to let that organic process happen. You have to allow people's input. You have to allow you exchange vibes with people, you react to each other, and you have to allow defeat to happen. And things change your mind. So many times when I start out, I feel embarrassed, like if I have to change my mind, I find excuses. And when I feel established, I just I'm confident I change my mind. I think that's okay, and most filmmakers, they respect that. I think filmmaking is about the process of filmmaking. It's not about words. That's just something, and these days, sometimes it's not even words, we pre-visualize it. I draw cartoon like Pi. The whole voyage, I did 75 minutes of animation, digital animation, before I got greenlit, before I even get to do it. So before I did the movie, I already done it. So that's all. It's not script. It's cartoon already. It's already done the movie. But still, when we do it, there's things. It's easy to draw, but and to do animation, but you cannot actually do it. Then you have to change plans. Keep changing, like life. You keep adrift, keep changing until one day you know you have nothing more to do, and that's it.
What are some adjustments that you go through from an independent studio from like a big studio film? And what are some like creative choices that are maybe different from going through an independent studio and a big studio?
I like to, because the outsider kind of effect, I like to break barriers. I don't like to be categorized. That's one of the reasons I keep doing different things. The same thing goes with the studios. I want to blur the lines, just because independent doesn't mean I have to be cheap. Sometimes I want to do big independent films, such as Hulk. When I do Hulk, that's my first really studio kind of, it costs a lot of money. It takes a lot of plan. But I feel I was doing a very private movie. And sometimes when I did like Brokeback Mountains, smaller budgets, independent, but I feel like I was very relaxed. The film language was very common. It feels more like a studio movies. So I don't really like to categorize them. However, when you have higher budget, you have to deal with studio politics, deal with a big machine. That takes a lot of skills. I would like to, that is something you cannot avoid. You have to know how to talk to people, how to deal with bureaucracy and all that. But I think, I don't feel it's a difference when I make big movies. It's much difference than doing my student films or my first few smaller movies. Pi, for example, it's big, it's a big budget movie, visual effects. The production is really pretty incredible, and I'm doing it at Fox. It's a very studio-like place. I just have to keep fighting. I like to think of myself as an independent spirit. I think when you do smaller movie, I actually have to do, because the budget's smaller, I have to make the days. Actually, I function more like a studio person. But bigger budget, I think the budget limitation is unfree. When we say independent, that means maximum freedom. But I think when you have budget, stringent budget restrict, that's one form of not free too. So it's very hard to define. But one way or another, I have to deal with a lot of people with studio. And I try to get my biggest freedom. I'm not the kind of person that's totally art house. So my budget is bigger. Like the movie I'm doing now is really art house. It's, I'm doing something very experimental, 3D drama. I use high frame technology. Honest with you, we don't have a projector to project this film yet, but it's very experimental. But it costs a lot of money because of the technology. I would like to put myself and the studio in a place they don't know what to do, and I don't know what to do, and somehow that feels independent in spirit. I don't really know how to answer that question. The studio politics, I know. The budget, how to handle the days, I'm seasoned enough to handle all that. I know how to talk so people feel confident when they put down the money. But what does that say? I don't feel like work for one day. That's very fortunate. I've been poor. I've been doing well. But I never really want to feel like when I go out make a movie, I'm working. The studio system as you talked about, and the whole vendor, the whole industry system, very often you feel like you're working, not dreaming, not exploring. And that's the feeling I never really want to do, not work for money, not work for work's sake. So that's how I am. But there's reality, like the vaulting skills, flying in Crouching Tiger. They all try to break gravity, but somehow they still have to land.
You mentioned in your opening comments that one of your common threads in your movies was this aspect of pretending, like somebody has to pretend or hide. And then when you were talking about Asian culture, maybe particularly Chinese culture, growing up with your father in this high school where it was kind of this closed environment, do you feel that there's an aspect of pretending there? Like, do you think that there's more life and dreaming behind these closed cultures and people are pretending a little bit? Can you tell me a little bit?
I have to pretend I was not dreaming. To a degree, I'm pretty good at that. I'm a very spaced out person. Like my attention span doesn't last more than 1 minute, maybe 3 if I really make effort, and I start to drift away. But I didn't get caught. These days, I still can do that. It's like I'm in a meeting and I start to wander off and then I come back. I still make the days.
In the Chinese cultural in general, I'm married to a Chinese man, so I'm not sure, but in the Chinese cultural in general, being maybe more conservative or more quiet or more closed, is that pretending?
Yeah, pretend in harmony, in agreement. Very much like each man and woman. They pretend they're having dinner together, but then until you cannot pretend anymore, like every 10 years there's big happening in China. Everything, all hell break loose. And then people find new lies to keep the balance again. And so we're going through that rhythm. Here is more verbalized, more asserted. But in Asian society, you pretend to be in harmony because we're pack animals, and until all hell breaks loose, you cannot take it anymore. And it's chaos, then you go back to the new license system and pretend we're in harmony again. That's kind of the pattern. Yeah, it is a different pattern. I think pretend is probably a too harsh a word. We're well behaved, we're very docile, and I'm a good example of that. Particularly, I'm the principal's son, which is one of the best high schools in Taiwan. Honor, and all that, what you're supposed to do. You never really speak up, modest, yielding, and all that. But, my mind is drifting away.
Thanks so much for tonight. My question is, are there some movies or a couple of movies that you wish you had made? And other movies you wish you had made?
Oh.
And have you considered doing a remake so you could perhaps put your expression into something that people have seen another way?
I don't think I want to remake anything. And as I say, you would remake a bad movie, you don't want to remake a good movie. I would certainly do that. But I never remake a movie or doing a sequel. It's just never, there are all kinds of wonderful things to do. Why remake something? I haven't found a good reason. But of course, never say never.
Are there movies you wish you had made?
No. Right. Every week I turn down 2, 3 scripts, and some of them are really good. Some project went on win the Oscar, but no, I don't regret. There are a couple movies I saw as I wish that's the movie I did, not because I turned down. I wish if I do that, I'd give a different angle. That's really interesting subject matter, very interesting story, but if I get my hands on it, that happened a few times. I won't name you which one. But for something I didn't choose to do, no. Even like Brokeback Mountain. You know, if by the time I finish the Hulk, it is not about somebody made that movie, would I be regret? I don't think so. I think that's just, it's a karma. You know, whatever belongs to you will never escape. You cannot really pursue it. If it's yours, it's yours. And when I do something, it's not like that material really worth something. It's my participating in that. And that's the period of my life. That's how it comes out, along with so many people's effort. And that's how people perceive it. That's just the texture of my life. So how can I regret that? Sometimes I look at some others, oh, I wish that was my son. Yeah, sure. I won't tell you. But do I regret like my own life? No. Thank you.
Thank you, Ang Lee. Thank you, Mike DeGennaro. Thank you, everyone.